Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Circle Club. Let's not waste too much time. We got Corey of What's Next down below. Episode 9 next week. Let's jump into it.
The king is dead.
The king is dead. Finally.
He told me he wished for Aegon to be king.
Woof. Uh-oh.
The door remains shut until we finish our business.
That Aegon, so
None
nasty.
Who you are or what you seek.
Aegon.
What of Rhaenyra?
I found out something you should know.
This is seizure, and it's treason at the least.
The visuals in this look so amazing.
Have you never imagined yourself on the Iron Throne?
That was Rhaenyra at the end. I just want to say that for confirmation, because I think you could have easily interpreted that as someone else. But yeah, that was Rhaenyra at the end there. Interesting. So we got a kid. That was the thing that stood out to me the most from this. I don't know what stood out to you, but let's just talk about this kid for a second. I mean, that was sort of a shocker, right? Who do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that's Daemon and Rhaenyra's kid, right? Like she talked about, I think in this last episode when she saw her dad for the first time, that they had two people that he wanted to see, right? It was Aegon, I think the fourth of his name, and Viserys, the second, right? She named one of her kids after her dad, which was awesome to see. So yeah. I think this is Aegon, and I think the reason why it's Aegon is because A, look at the hair, blonde hair, or the silver hair, and B, I think it's going to be the wrench that comes into this miscommunication when it comes to what Viserys said to Alicent, right? She heard him say Aegon needs to be king, right?
Yes.
Well, is it Aegon her son, or is it Aegon Rhaenyra's son, right? So when it comes to that being the case, right, it could easily like they've all known that Jace, Luke, Joffrey are all bastards, right?
Yeah.
But now that Daemon and Rhaenyra are together, they have a true-born Targaryen son through Aegon the Fourth, right? So it very much might be that Viserys was talking about Rhaenyra's son Aegon, right? I think that person coming to talk to Alicent might be telling her like, hey, just so you know, Rhaenyra has a kid named Aegon too, right? And it throws another wrench into, I think, this miscommunication that leads to just people wondering, okay, who was he talking about, right? And I think that's the problem when we talk about the game telephone, right? Like, what is the truth at the end of the day? So I could see this being the rift there, because I think there's no coincidence that there's Aegons on both sides here.
Yes. And I think that's a great analysis of what we're seeing there. I do wonder if that child, if they were known about, how they could actually sort of make him legitimate then, because if he was sent away, or if the kid was not considered legitimate during their marriage or whatever, like that is going to sort of create this political divide, and also just how the perception is too, right? Because as you see in this trailer, you're starting to see a lot of just commoners in this, which is new for us. We haven't gotten a lot of commoners running around, putting their stamp on things, like there's fighting going on. And I think maybe that's sort of an issue too, because if this kid is brought into the scene now, it's like, well, there was no announcement of this kid. There was no, did they have this kid when Laenor was still around? What is the case? So I think that's going to create some serious complications. As I mentioned, you're starting to see this crowd revolt and things going on here. What's your take or pulse on that? Do you think it's they aren't accepting Rhaenyra as the queen, or do you think they have issues with other things? What's your thought there?
Yeah, I think this is just I think this is where battle lines are really going to start being drawn, right? Like it's clear that the Civil War is going to start popping off, as we've said this a couple times, right? I think you're going to start to see people pick those sides, and because there's only two sides, it leads for, I think, easy conflict here, right? Like something that was happening in Game of Thrones versus House of the Dragon was there's a lot of players, right? A lot of different people working a lot of different angles, so it was less about just head like one side versus another. I think with this, I think there's going to be people very clearly drawing their swords on a specific side, right? And I think you see it even within the small council meeting, and one of the counselors saying like, "Hey, this is treason," right? So I think it's at a boiling point, right? There's going to be a lot of things that are going on where people haven't been to war. Like, I think we got to reflect upon that earlier on in the season. They talk about like a lot of these knights and people haven't fought. They haven't been in war, right? So a lot of them are eager. So with all these things starting to boil and really come to fruition, you're going to start to see people just jump on actions, right? And not really be thoughtful behind their actions. And I think that's why you're going to start seeing a lot of these commoners going at one another because they're taking sides, right? And I think there's nobody really there to ensure the peace, right? Because everybody is kind of boiling at this point.
One last quick thing I wanted to mention was the power move here from Otto Hightower, basically shutting everyone out. You know, even his sister here, you see her trying to clearly get into somewhere, but she is trapped inside. I guess, like, you know, look, there's people getting escorted. I guess I wonder, even though Otto is the hand, and even though Alicent is technically the widowed queen, and if everyone knows Rhaenyra is the heir that was chosen or selected, how could they even really challenge this? I mean, isn't she has to get, like, she has to be coronated, right? She has to be on the throne, right? So I think we're going to see this moment where she definitely does get crowned, she gets coronated, but I think maybe her and Alicent almost may come to potentially some sort of agreement or something where Rhaenyra takes a step away. I think ultimately Rhaenyra may get on the crown, bro, but she might walk away because I'm thinking about how you know, the last episode she was saying it's a lot of pressure. She was telling her father, I'm not as interested in this. I think her and Alicent sort of did see eye to eye, right? And then with Alicent saying he told me that Aegon was supposed to be on the throne, maybe there actually isn't as much pushback as we think back and forth with this. Maybe the pushback comes from the people. I don't know.
I think I'm not gonna follow in line with you. I'm gonna go a little different here, right? I look back at Game of Thrones and when Joffrey took the throne, right? The reason why Joffrey was able to take the throne is because Cersei seized it as soon as Robert died, right? She just took the chair pretty much and just claimed it as her own, right? And I think something that we need to be cognizant of is the High Towers are in King's Landing, right? Rhaenyra is in Dragonstone, right? So before Viserys dies, it shows Rhaenyra is leaving, right, with her family. So I think it because of the miscommunication, I could see Alicent just kind of rushing to make Aegon the king because they're already in King's Landing, and that is what causes, I think, a little bit of the revolt, because a lot of these people know Rhaenyra is supposed to be the queen, but she's not there yet, right? And I think that's why you see people going to the dungeons and why people are feuding outside, is because something that you notice even in the last episode is the Red Keep itself was a lot more empty than it used to be, right? They added obviously the
a lot more religious,
so they're clearly having a vice grip on the Red Keep itself. So they could, in theory, be taking control from within there because they have the safety of King's Landing. Now, of course, Rhaenyra could go in there, guns a-blazing like Dany used to, but that wouldn't really help her claim the throne, right? So I think what most likely probably happens is that the High Towers almost have a coup, try to put Aegon on the throne. It causes almost a revolt within the city, and it's going to be the first action that pops off the war. And I think for Rhaenyra, it's gonna come as a surprise because, as far as she's concerned, we just squashed all the beef, right?
Right.
So now she's
right.
hearing Aegon the Third is taking the throne. The High Towers are claiming all this, and it's almost gonna be a blindside move from the High Towers that shocks, I think, Rhaenyra, Daemon, and that side. That's gonna force them to have to take some actions, and I think is what leads to a lot of these quick actions and people fighting, because it just happens so impromptu within the moment, especially after everybody within court saw Viserys confirm the line of succession, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's the only thing that makes sense, and I point to just the situation with Joffrey and Cersei as an example of how that can happen rather quickly after the king dies.
Well, folks, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Corey. That's at what's next _TCC. He makes all sort of content about Easter eggs and little moments and predictions and theories. And so far, he's been pretty right about most of them. And if you like Marvel, we got the same thing for you down there. All right, folks, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.